A few months back, I made this absolute monstrosity of a building. It's a decoration for an insane iron farm on Wavetech and took countless hours to create. It also caused way more headaches than I care to admit, but it still holds up to some of my larger builds. However, ever since designing the decoration, the entire farm was put on hold while the server updated and such. Now, the project is back in action on Wave, and as the summer wraps up for me, I think it's time we wrap up this decoration. The revisions we made were fairly simple, but really made this building pop. So without further ado, let's hop right into that time lapse. The biggest gripe we had on this build was the large anvils that the building sits on. They were far too plain, so when revisiting this build, it was crucial that we fix this first. I wanted the decoration we add to the anvils to be somewhat simple so they wouldn't detract from the building itself. After changing the texturing to a placeholder block, I began adding the depth by pushing in the middles of the anvils. I then made sure the trim connected with a new depth by stacking the rim inward, and then bringing the edges back out to provide a little bit more interesting depth. It's kind of hard to see as of right now since we're only using gray concrete, but these little additions really help out when we retexture the anvil later. I then moved on to the decoration of the trim, again keeping it simple by only pushing in a few spots every couple of blocks. This process was really simple, so after I finished with the long side of the anvil, I then copied this method for the front as well as the inner side. Very simple stuff, and once I finished the front of the anvil, I then copied and mirrored it to the back side. After we were finished with one anvil, again, really simple decorations, I then copied said anvil, flipped it, and pasted it on the other side of the building. However, it was at this point that I realized that I hadn't spawn-proofed our new additions, so I quickly went back and carpeted up the new areas and then copied over said carpets as well. If you're a long-time subscriber of the channel, you'll know that I have an issue with doors. Namely that I, never make them. So the next step was to make a door! Also, if you're not a long-time subscriber of the channel, there's always a time to start, like right now, subscribe right now, please subscribe right now, I removed some of the windows we made in the past to make sure the door was wide enough to fit in the proportions of the rest of the decoration. I added minimal decoration around the frame of the door, but it was kind of fun to have the arch dip in further with the rest of the wall, and its simplicity kind of appealed to me. However, the headache stage was only just beginning. It was time to spawn-proof this massive build. Since the decoration was in the overworld, it's not too crucial that I monster-proof the build, but since it is an iron farm, I had to make sure that I carpeted all places that a golem could spawn. Unless I'm wrong, golems spawn in a 32 by 12 by 32 box around the villagers that summon them, so I carpeted up the ledges and the windows near the sides of the farm. I also realized that, just to be safe, I should carpet the entire bridge, so I used a light gray carpet to do so. Once I finished with that little tidbit, I thought that it was a good time to take a break. So now, let's go take a closer peek at what we did inside the creative world itself. It has been approximately 2 days since I last looked at this build, so on 3, oh wow, that door really makes this build so much better. Let's start breaking it down piece by piece with what we did. This frame around the edge of the anvil, very simple, but I think it adds a lot. I think it actually adds what this build needed in terms of depth and decoration on the anvil. Very simple, but kind of nice trim. I can't help but feel like there should be something in the middle there. But apart from that, I think that the decoration along the trim of this build is ideal. I also like how we're keeping the iron. Oop, that's a bit too far. Iron. I think that that's kind of cool. I think that this doorway is an excellent addition as well. I also didn't talk about this in the time-lapse, but I did add an anvil to that giant red circle. I asked a while ago what I should add to that giant circle, and someone suggested an anvil, and even sent me screenshots in Discord of what they were thinking, and I kind of based my idea. I forgot who suggested that, but again, thank you for the idea. It was very good, and I kind of based my design off of yours, but I took it a little bit different, and I used the same block palette that I used for these anvils in there, and I think it looks okay. Maybe a little more ornamentation could work. And speaking of ornamentation that could work, this door could maybe use a little bit more, but I like how simple it is, and I like how we brought in the weathered copper in the windows into the door frame as well. I like what we did. Okay, don't get me wrong. I like what we did, but I think that it could use a little bit more. So again, suggestions on how to improve this build would be great. I think that this dome needs a lot of love. I think that the trim area could use a lot of love. Maybe the roof could use some trim as well. Someone suggested that I get rid of these spots and that they're a little weird. I don't know. I still kind of like them. So I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. Again, suggestions are super appreciated. And of course, all the changes we made, I only did on one side. We still have one of the earlier designs on this side. So if we ever hate what we've done, we can just go right back to the other side. But I think that this build is getting really close to completion. And any suggestions you have would be maybe the last additions to this build before we actually build it in the SMP. And it's going to be so hard to build all of this, but it's going to be so much fun. I'll live stream it for sure, and I'll of course give out an announcement when that's going to happen. But actually for now, this isn't all we're going to build today. Oh no. I mentioned last week that a few months ago I got invited onto the Glorious SMP by Glotz himself. The main reason I was asked to join the Glorious SMP was to decorate their slime farm perimeter. If you didn't know, the Glorious SMP has the fastest slime farm ever created in survival Minecraft, so it's a pretty big honor that I got asked to join in on decorating the perimeter. However, this iron farm decoration took a little bit longer than expected, and that in combination with moving apartments in real life right now means I don't have a ton of time this week to put in the work on the Glorious server. However, I still put in a couple hours. So let's jump right into a time lapse and see what I whipped up for this slime farm. I hope you enjoyed that quick little time lapse and that music. That's actually a new song that I produced using only sounds directly from Minecraft. So I hope you enjoyed both those little things together. And now let's check out what I made. Oh, wait a second. Max, I can hear you say. Max, this is not what you showed. Well, this is what I made a few months ago. The first two drafts, I suppose, as it were, of what I thought that the slime farm could look like. I like how this one started turning out, but I quickly grew disinterested in it since it was just a ton of copy and paste work and nothing really interesting. And this one is just a disaster. I like the slime spilling out of the pipe, but if you have a keen eye, you can probably tell that I just kind of copied the idea I had for the sheep farm. So this idea was also quickly deleted. What you actually want to see is way over there on the other side of the perimeter. And here is the pipage that we made in that quick time lapse. It didn't look very difficult, but creating all those different pipes and their orientations was a little complicated and took more time than I care to admit. But I think that this turned out pretty cool. It's an interesting draft, that's for sure. I don't think this will be a final product. I think that it's very interesting just as is. And I was even thinking of having a few of them, since they are all hollow, pointing outwards and having slime spill out of it. It could be kind of interesting, but we'll see. You may have also saw a little edge of this in the time lapse. I don't know what I was thinking when I started making that. It just looks bad. But I think that these pipes turned out fairly okay. Again, I do not think that they're going to be the final product. I'm not very satisfied with them. I don't think that they're going to be worthy of being on the Glorious SMP. But, however, I am now dedicated to making something that is worthy to be on the Glorious SMP. This is the fastest slime farm in the game. This has to be the coolest slime farm decoration in the game. Am I right? I am so right. But I think that's all I have time for today when it comes to building, so without much further ado, let's jump right into today's questions. Today's first question is from Ren834, asking if I got the view time needed for the release of the sheep farm decoration. If you didn't know, I promised to release this decoration completely free if I was able to get YouTube partnership by September 15th. The quick answer is, well, no, but I made a little oopsies and went on vacation and didn't post a video for 2 weeks, so that's kind of my bad. So, to make up for missed time, I changed it up a bit. Literally, as of writing this reply to this question, I decided that I'll release the schematic if ever and whenever I can apply to YouTube partnership. It's a little selfish of me to set a deadline for something that should be celebrated, so now there's no rush or chance of not being able to share the schematic. Arbitrary goal is it would be nice to apply for the YouTube partnership by October, because that may or may not be my birth month, but today's second question is from Spring, asking if I'd rather fight 10,000 lions or 1,000 lions with guns. The answer is 1,000 lions with guns. Are you kidding me? Lions don't have opposable thumbs. They can't use guns. I mean, I'm gonna die either way, but like if the guns were taped to their paws, I might have a chance to escape because it'd like affect their ability to run. Or maybe I can get a hold of one, and me with a gun against 1,000 lions is infinitely better than being unarmed against 10,000 lions. And on that particularly odd note, if you'd like to have one of your questions answered in a video, feel free to drop a comment down below for a chance to be featured in next week's video. And now for the first time in 3 weeks. Okay, I have this other thing to go do now. Bye.